Hey everyone, it's me again. And yes, it's going to be yet another one of those videos. Originally, I wanted to tell you all about the frequent art scammers who have been tuning into the streams, but something had come up recently that made me want to talk with you all about something that's been on my mind for quite a while now. As some of you know, I graduated from college last year, and I was looking forward to getting my life in order. I still have a ways to go before getting into law school, but I was aiming to have the time between then and now to be worthwhile, productive, fulfilling, and honestly rewarding to some extent. I think for some people, when they leave college, they expect pathways of opportunities to be unlocked. Finally, having a well rounded resume that will land them a job sometime in the next month or two, earning money for themselves, and overall just starting to make a name for themselves, right? In this ever so changing world. I never had this expectation while I was in school, even while I was in high school, but I think it's worth pointing out considering recent employment trends, the declining value of Gen Z in the workforce, that's been placed over the last few years, and questionability surrounding education and its return on investment. Which brings me to today's topic. It's been over a year now since I graduated with my undergrad, and as you know from reading the title of this video, I'll be turning 25 here next month. In the time between when I graduated till now, I had been rejected by an indie game dev studio who had an internship for helping out establish the IP for this small visual novel type education game, which, looking back on it, I couldn't care less about whether I got accepted or not. Like the game looked woke and a bit dull anyway, but whatever. I had also applied to several entry level jobs as soon as I left school, ranging from being a vendor at a movie theater to being a regular employee at a few retail stores. I was just looking for a way to make some money for a bit as I was studying for the LSAT. But frankly, the reality of being able to find some kind of work after school is done, or perhaps even during school, and then to be employed, has drastically turned into this sort of PvP mind server, where everybody's like playing these games, these mind games. Job openings are being posted left and right on sites like Indeed and, dare I say, Workday. We apply to these job openings, answering all these questions that are thrown at us while we upload our resumes, maybe fill in some tax info, and give them an estimated time for when we'd be able to, come into work, only to then be met with one of two outcomes that don't involve us being hired. Hear absolutely nothing from the companies for weeks, if not months, and as we check frequently, we find out that the opening is now closed. Or we then hear back from them after a few weeks or months, and they simply write, quote, "Thanks for your interest in insert average retail store. After reviewing your application, we've decided not to move forward at this time, but don't worry, new opportunities pop up all the time, so keep an eye on our careers page. Wishing you lots of luck and good vibes on your job hunt." For those of you who have applied to Five Below and have been sent a rejection email, you know these words to be exact. And the worst part about it all, in some cases, as soon as you find out that the position you applied for is no longer open, the same position then reopens, and it can happen more than once. And you may be thinking, well, what about fast food? Because surely they're not as egregious as retail when it comes to employment, and, I'm sure we're all familiar with the quote, "shut up and just put the fries in the bag," especially during conversations about all these different kinds of people who have these sort of jobs or higher up positions, and we just question why they're even there to begin with all the subpar work and statements that they've put out, uh, inside and outside of their career. Hollywood actors, television movie producers, these girl bosses that show off these day in my life videos at their tech jobs, game developers, millennials, you name it. And we make this joke about how if they didn't have this job or whenever they happened to be laid off, they'd be serving fries over at McDonald's. However, I think even the fast food industry has been compromised because I saw a post over on X the other day that blew up not too long ago. It garnered a lot of traction, and it was an email from McDonald's that was sent to this person. The email was the most corporatized rejection letter that I've read, having pretty much the same beats as Five Belows, with the whole After reviewing your application, we will not be moving forward at this time. We offer new opportunities all the time. Best of luck to you on your job hunt. To make this even more hysterical was what this person wrote above the screenshot, which basically said how our parents made such a big deal about getting good grades, or else they'll be working at McDonald's. But the reality is that they don't even have a clue about what's going on out there. I've said this before on stream, and I've said it even to my mom, but I genuinely believe that we are currently living in the best of times and the worst of times. If you were born somewhere between 1994 to 2005, let's say, you were undeniably living in the greatest time to be a kid and a teenager. And throughout this time, we had this belief, this promise that, if you want to call it that, that things were going to be pretty good as we got older, based upon the things that were happening around us. For the most part, that is. Frankly, I, just like many of us, turned out to be wrong. Because I think what made the kind of media and environment that we all grew up in make it seem as though when we got older, things were going to work out just fine, was that it originated from this era where not only was it possible, but all those who partook in this age of well-being did so early, and are now reaping the rewards of it, whether they intended to in the first place or not. That's why I think so many of these bidding sites and apps like Polymarket, Kalshi, RingBet, Stake, whatever, have gotten so damn popular amongst these younger demographics, because everybody wants to jump in on something they see as valuable as soon as they can, much like the older generations. And I'm not just talking about stock trades, but it's gotten so bad that there are people out there who have money on the line just for politicians to say one specific word in some address or speech they'll give, or maybe there'll be some kind of word or brand mentioned in the newest South Park episode. Otherwise, those people will either win or lose their cash. And to make matters worse, these corporations not only capitalize on this ASAP mentality, but they've found a way to socially engineer the population with a dedicated team of psychologists into buying this idea of having attention and fortune be monetized. Before Elon bought Twitter, we had to earn the blue check mark, right? Maybe a few background checks here and there, but for the most part, there was a grounded level of dedication set forth to prove you were who you were. Now, you can just buy it. Pay a monthly subscription on X, and you'll not only have your blue check mark, but your posts will also be seen by more people, will garner more likes, and will place you somewhere in the algorithm. This isn't to say that X is to solely blame, but it has certainly reinforced this subscription-based model towards aspects in our daily lives. Other social media apps have followed suit, right? Robinhood now has a subscription, LinkedIn has a subscription, and of course, every kind of dating app under the sun has a subscription, all to just have a chance, not a guarantee, a chance of recognition. Of course, I strongly value merit and integrity. I believe if somebody wants to accomplish something, they need to do something in order to earn it, right? Not just have it be handed over to them. However, we can only accomplish that by making sure the opportunities to do so are not only available, but are also legit, and that those who put out those opportunities can give those who are promising enough to do the job a chance to prove themselves. By the time I graduated from college, there's a saying that I found that I will continue to live and breathe by. Never value the quantity of qualification over the quality of practice. In other words, we may dress the part, but we should be accountable in making sure that we actually do the part efficiently. Otherwise, you'll have these people in these higher up positions, namely teachers, who will have an ill-informed system of accomplishing certain tasks while also trying to convince you how important it is to wonder why the moon is bigger on the horizon than it is in the starry night sky. Anyways, I've rambled on about what's going on with the world and other people, but what about me, right? Well, currently I've been volunteering at a local defense attorney's office for the past several months now, while at the same time working with a 20-year-old girl who thinks only about herself and constantly complains in my ear. So that's fun. Aside from that, I'm currently planning to take the LSAT again in a few months, and it makes me wonder whether or not this will pan out better than it did the first time. My mom tells me it's okay to not do as good as I wanted to in the first time around, but if you know me, it's my father who I'm more concerned of because he's the one who's not only paid for my studies, but has constantly demanded me to act, think, and perform as if I'm some kind of superhuman, even though he denies that what it's he expects that of me regardless. I've come to accept that my father will never understand completely how the world is today and what it's like to be someone like me. All right. Last night we got into an argument regarding the LSAT because this week I hadn't been studying as much as I had been on average. Right. I had only been studying for about 3 hours a day this week versus the regular like 4 to 4.5, and he hounded my ass on it completely. But so that's why I ended up not streaming last night. I won't get into it, right? I won't get much more into it. But for my friends watching, if you know, you know. He's been caught up in this his own web of dogmatism and lived experience fallacies, believing that I don't work hard enough, that I'm comfortable, that I'm soft, that I just don't care because things are provided for me. That's simply not true. Because I do go out and work on myself. I take care of my body daily. I make sure to put time into my studies, into my guitar, and into other interests that I have, interests that help me focus and learn about my own habits, and interests that are just starting to open up new paths for me. Hell, I haven't even told him or my mom yet about being an affiliate now over on Twitch, which, by the way, my first payout isn't anything big. I didn't expect it to be so anyway, but it's definitely not what I used to be paid back when I was a busser a few years ago. Regardless, though, my dad has a preconceived narrative about me. And if there's anything that goes against the narrative, he looks for a way to refute it, no matter how absurd it is. In fact, I haven't told my mom this yet, but he's gone so far as to disrespect people in my family, such as my grandfather, in order to make his arguments. While I was 24, he would tell me that when he was my age, he was living with my mom under a house. From what I've heard from my mom and from other relatives who knew my dad when he was that young, I question the kind of decisions he might have made back then. But pushing all that aside, the ecosystem, the landscape that was around him at the time, allowed him to do all those things because it was more affordable than it is now, by a long shot. His latest belief is that he thinks I spend too much time on a screen and that my brain isn't developing academic and insightful information. Why, yes, the 5G is infiltrating my brain. How could you tell? I could go on about how ridiculous this notion is, but I think you see the point that I'm trying to get at. Look, I know change isn't easy, and no one has ever told me that reaching some form of satisfaction or success would be a walk in the park. Some of you who are watching may be thinking, you're only 25, you still have time. And personally, I've been on the fence as to whether to believe that's true, because I'm approaching the second half of my 20s. So many of us say that our 20s is where we truly shine in our lives and to make the most of life, because life gets tougher as we age. I do agree with the second half of the statement, but I'll be honest with you, throughout my 20s, there's only been a small fraction where I really felt as though I was making the most out of my life. By the time I reached 20, schools were barely opening back up after the pandemic. And before then, I thought people would actually be more appreciative of each other's company once we were all out of lockdown. By having the ability of social gatherings and in-person contact being taken away at an instant, I was hoping, naively speaking, that we wouldn't take those kind of moments for granted. However, the vaccine came sooner than I think most of us had thought, And instead of people having this kind of gratitude in being back outside and seeing other people again, a lot of us became so closed-minded, so fixated on themselves, preferring digital communication than in person, with Gen Z undeniably being hit the hardest. Since then, I never really had a plethora of opportunities to really bring the best of myself in my 20s, and the only time I ever did was when I was in college. But looking back at it, like seeing it in the bigger picture, assuming that, that will only be the only moment in time where I was outgoing and being more socially active with other people, that's 1/5 of my 20s. I'm incredibly grateful for the time I spent with those people, and they've come to help me understand the kind of person I am. But as of now, that's where my life has peaked. And I just want to do more while I'm still young. Meanwhile, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been believing that the 2020s have been the fastest decade that has gone by. We're currently in August 2026, and I'm over here internally feeling like we're in early 2024. Time truly waits for no one, I guess, no matter how fast or slow it is. But anyways, that's all I wanted to say to you guys. I know this is a bit of a thought-provoking topic, and I appreciate the time you took into watching this video. I just wanted to give you guys an update and let you in on my thoughts and why, I hadn't streamed last night. But as of recording of this video, we are going to be live here soon playing the new Nikke Persona event, so, look forward to that. The link to my channel is in the description down below, as well as other links to my socials and whatever. I'll still be playing Persona 4 Golden, and we'll soon be putting together some more Gunpla models here in the future. Anyways, though, thanks again for watching, and hopefully I come back with a video that isn't really as depressing as this one. Alright, I'll see you guys.